Hi my besties, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are seeing my face for the first time, hi, my name is Maya and I like to talk about books here on the internet. You guys, we're in the new year and y'all probably don't know. I know I mentioned I filmed a few videos before I went to Colorado, but you guys, this video right now is being filmed in the new year. I think my actually first time filming within the new year. That wasn't like book talk centric or like for my other channel or any other form of social media. So this feels so exciting. I'm so ecstatic. There are some videos that I have planned that are for sure coming out. I just don't know when. So the for sure video plans that are coming out are the Q3, Q4 stat video. I'm gonna be mashing those stats together, and I'm actually not going to be doing story graph within those because I still have yet to actually update my story graph. Just a lot happened, and you know, with the physical health issues, with the getting arrangements together for travel, with the finances at the very end of the year and all of the things, it was just very much, I had a lot going on, so I wasn't really about that life of stat recording, but I do have bare bones stats that I can bring y'all, so I would love to do that. There's definitely a, not necessarily an update to the reward system, although there may actually be some updates, but like an update on my progress, question mark, is that the right word, within the rewards system. So like, I was thinking like my real big book shopping spree would be at the end of the year. So my bank account would like go back to zero and I would start from the beginning of the year, whatever the stats turned out at the end, then I would have a fun little shopping spree at the end of the year just to treat myself and to just reward myself for surviving another year of life, okay? We have an unhaul video coming out and we have a haul video coming out, so I don't know if I'm going to consider that the spree because that's actually more than what we're used to seeing in my haul videos, but we'll see. And there was one other video that I wanted to do. Oh yeah, I wanted to do the start of the year or January, one of the two, as a book tag to cement some like fun bookish goals and some channel things and just a little chit chat amongst friends. And then I also think I have a few things that I was tagged in terms of like book tags and stuff that I still have yet to like, you know, go back and do. So yes, lots of videos coming up and my phone is telling me I have low storage. That's interesting because I thought I cleared all of it out. Apparently I did not. So I'm gonna talk until it just decides to cut me off, I guess. Yes, let's get into today's video though, and today's video is gonna be a wrap up because you guys, we read some books and I'm so excited. First and foremost, let us start with the books that we read, and that was the Tarot Cafe Special Edition Volume 1 by Sang-Soon Park, and I mean, isn't it gorgeous? So this is a story following along our main character Pamela, and she has a special talent, shall we say, that allows her to help people not only in her regular daily life of owning a cafe, but she has some interesting clientele after hours that are more, shall we say, supernatural. We get more of her backstory in this. So if you guys do not know, I had read the Tarot Cafe Volume 1, the non-special edition, and in that one, I actually had a lot to say. I believe I wrapped it up in one of the videos, so if I have it in a reading wrap-up, I'll link that video in the description box down below. If I have any videos on my thoughts on the book as I was reading it, because I was very impressed by this book, honestly, and I know I have a little vlog about it. I will also link that vlog in the description box down below. I just kind of raved about, honestly, the writing choices of this book, because while this is a manga, I think it just kind of takes it to another level. I just think, I don't know, there is something about the Tarot Cafe, and specifically when I first read it as the non-special edition, which was a little bit shorter, or rather a lot shorter, and I I think it truly was the fact that we were following along a main character that we read about on the back of the book for the summary. And while we are following her point of view, she is not the main character of the story, or so it feels like. Because then you read this, and then you're just like, oh, she a main character. But even then, she's still not like the main character, if that makes sense. But she doesn't have to be, because she's badass and we love her, and we love her story that we get here. But in the initial book, we didn't get any of that. And I still had such a fun time. Like, I had no idea where the plot was going. It was just kind of like random stories that were put together in a way that made sense because of who Pamela was and is, and kind of what her storyline in her time right now is. And that is very important to note, time right now for her. And I just loved it. Like, I just had such a fun time. I raved about the illustrations as well, because not only were the illustrations the moving story and were just so perfect, and the words that the author chose to use for the plot were so perfect, and the way that the characters were given life and character were so amazing. Like, these characters just had personalities and vibes, and no one character was alike, no one was stale, everyone had a story, everyone had a purpose. It was amazing, it was lovely. We love, even with all of that. So obviously, okay, tarot is involved, the Tarot Cafe, okay, as the name states, tarot is involved. What I personally love, as someone who has just heard kind of tarot, like, I knew that tarot existed, but I never was like into tarot like that. As someone who is like on the periphery, the thing that I know about tarot is that it exists and it's cards, and it somehow has something to do with maybe seeing into the future, predicting future. I don't even know. Like, that's the bare bones of all I knew going into this. As someone who is that uneducated in the world of tarot, it was amazing to see that this author took the time and the dedication to show us the card, and then in minimal writing, tell us what exactly it meant, what it could mean, what it meant in terms of the story as well. Like, clearly it was highlighting a specific thing that was going on within the story, and typically if you really looked at it, it was showing the definition that we were trying to get to within the story first, and then it continued its explanation. But it was very thorough, it was very detailed, it was very beginner friendly to anyone who didn't know about tarot. And I just greatly appreciated that little detail. I don't know if you're into tarot, if you would appreciate that detail or not. I personally just think it's a detail that people will appreciate, just because the author took the time to put it in there to make sure that the reader was not lost. I always say this, that, you know, you don't always have to do all of the effort for the reader. In fact, sometimes you want the reader to have a little bit of effort in the reading process, because it makes the story their own, and then they can feel like they are connected to the story, connected to the characters, that there is some sort of just like personal connection, I think is the best word that I think I can come up with right now, to the story. You want that, right? Well, on the other side, there are some things where it's just kind of like, it's nice for the author to put in the work behind the scenes, because there may not be people who completely understand a thing that is being said. And if the person does not understand a thing that is being said, and especially if it's critical to the plot line, the story is going to fall flat. So I am very grateful that the author has decided in both versions to insert the meaning of the tarot within that, and that even further than that, they didn't just leave it at the definition of what it was for the interpretation of the story. It was the full thing. At least that's what it felt like to me, because we got a little bit more of an explanation. Now, what I love about this specific edition was that, you know, in the initial edition that I read, it was very short. We were really following along the people that Pamela was helping. In this one, we get a little bit more of her backstory. Not a lot, but just enough. And just a little bit more. And it's It's confusing in the right way because it makes you ask questions, but you're gonna get the answers. Sometimes you leave on a little cliffhanger, but you always get the answers that you need to round out the story that is being told here. And I love that. So I had such a great time with this book. 5 out of 5. Highly recommend reading Special Edition Volume 2 now as we speak, coming into the new year. And it's been so good. So the other books that I have read, I actually don't physically have in my hands. I did at one point, but I did a massive unhaul and I have already taken them to the secondhand bookstore, claim the credit for them. They gone. Okay, they gone. So let's talk about the other books that I read, or they were audiobook. So the one that I had physically and then also audibly was Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This was a reread for me. It was 5-star the first time I read it. It was 5-star the second time I read it, baby. This was so good to reread. Now, I actually had this for both of my TBR game prompts, and I remember this specifically because this helped me obtain Peregrine Took. You know what? I'm not gonna say too much because I like genuinely want people to not go in with a certain type of way that the conversation of humanity is talked about, because I think that just makes the experience a little bit more sweeter. But what I will say is that there is a conversation about humanity through the eyes of various different characters, and I think it's very poignant to today. So I would honestly encourage everyone to read this book. I'm not even kidding. I know that it is often like taught in schools. I think it's great. I think it should continue to be. I personally don't think I ever had to read it for school, like coming up in high school, but I think that would be so cool to have as a high school course, just because you are developing your mind and your opinion and your stances, and you're learning to articulate yourself in a way that is mature and that is like an adult. You know, the difference between child, teen, adolescent, all of the things, and then adult is that hopefully that maturity through experience and life lessons and learning and skill building. And what I think this book does with the conversation of humanity is it really kind of forces us to take responsibility for our own deeds and creations and pride. And I think that is a very good conversation, kind of coming up into a world where, and maybe we're not building Frankensteins or like legit people, although we're pretty gosh dang close. I think the further we get into technology and robots and you know, gene things, can you tell I'm not a scientist? I think it's a very important discussion because, okay, I'm gonna bring in a few examples here. And this is gonna sound weird, but this has a point. Okay, so Jurassic Park. Okay. Which, by the way, nah, I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. I when I went to Hawaii, I learned something about Jurassic Park. If you want to know, let me know, and I will definitely let you guys know in an upcoming video if there is enough interest in that. But essentially, in one of the newer movies, it's talking, well, actually in all of them, let's be real, it gives the opening of a conversation about scientists getting an ego trip, trying to play God, and it really backfiring. Like really bad. Like really bad. Another example, a literary example this time. I took a sci-fi class specifically all about sci-fi, so I was reading all of the things like Mars Princess, War of the Worlds. You know, I was reading some really good, you know, deep stuff over there, and it was just really cool. But one of the things that we had to read was a little short excerpt, and it was literally talking about this guy who lived in a world where you can create your own kid. I kid you not, you can insert their IQ, you can insert all of these different skills. But the thing that really like it kind of messed me up was you could insert their personality. And there was an aspect of it that was still, you know, there was a person that decided that they weren't going to go that way with their life. So you saw this person living that life, and then you were following along on the story of this man who was watching his life and everyone within it being able to choose their perfect whatever, how they wanted things to be, not only with children, but with job or, you know, with other stuff, just like everything about the world. And then he looked over, and he did have a wife and was trying to have a kid and whatever with her. So this part was a little, this part I don't condone, obviously, but like it to prove this point of the story, I guess. I don't know why this author did this way, but anyway, but there was a woman who didn't have that perfect life, and who was very much human and very much, we could understand her, but this guy couldn't understand her. And while he had everything so-called perfect through technology generation, he would look over at this woman and he would have this sense of superiority. However, there was this tug of, but what if she's kind of right about all of these other things? What if feeling things is better than not? And living this sterile, happy, clean, it was giving Giver vibes, to be quite honest. But as you can see, there is a trend coming up of literature, film, theater, all of this adapting, well, maybe not theaters as much, but adapting the idea of more technologically advanced societies and what we once deemed implausible to think of. Like this story was definitely older in its time. The target audience and the readers of this work would have thought, oh my goodness, there is no way technology would ever get this way. Bro, we're making humans. we're making animals, we're making humans. Like, this world exists now. It exists now. Okay, this world exists now. So what's our responsibility in it? Because we're making it. And we're definitely all about taking the credit for making it when it succeeds, when it's impressive, when it does what we want. Okay, but what if it doesn't? What if we can't control what we create? And what is our responsibility for the things that happen afterwards? And I just think Frankenstein is a very interesting think piece that is very poignant to today. And that's all I'm going to say on that, because I think the way that this goes about handling it is so good, but you gotta go in as unbiased as you possibly can. Because when I went into Frankenstein, let me tell you something. When I went into Frankenstein, I was thrown for a loop because I didn't know anything about Frankenstein. I thought Frankenstein was the monster. I didn't think Frankenstein was the actual creator. Okay. I mean, and it, obviously the monster as well. But like, you know what I'm saying? I just wasn't ready for the story that I got and its origins, but I think it was actually the perfect setup, the perfect piece, the perfect, I guess, honestly, discussion of humanity creating its own design And then what do you do with the responsibility when it's not what you thought? Because let me tell you something. Yes, we're gonna have major successes, and it's gonna be so good and so amazing on one hand. But it could also have failures. Because why? Because things happen. There could be failures. There could be malfunctions. There could be a lot of stuff that could go wrong with, advancement in tech and trusting it and relying on it so completely. And I think, not to get so deep into it, so I'll just say this and we could just put a pin in this conversation for a later time. I think that we are already experiencing both. Is that too controversial to say? I think we're experiencing both, right? And I think we're learning how to work around it, with it. But, user error exists. Error exists. And, what are we going to do when it comes for you? just kidding. What you gonna do when it comes for you? Trying to get a little lighthearted with it, but it's true. What you gonna do? What you gonna do if it turns on you? Basically, what we gonna do? How we gonna fix that? Because we don't want to just freaking ignore it. If anything, this shows us don't ignore the issue. Face it head on. But what we gonna do? Now we have another book that I have read. This was on Audible, and I recommend this to anyone who loves cozy fantasy, because this is honestly high stakes, but with seemingly medium consequences. How I want to describe, okay, wait, hold up. Let me tell you what this book is. So this book is Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. First off, get the Audible edition, because the translator, yes. I absolutely love the translator. So yes, please get it in audio. You won't regret it. I already got the second book. So I feel like, trying to describe this, we're following along a witch, and she lives in the modern world. She turns 30, and this is when her powers basically are supposed to not manifest, but be tested, because there's this whole overarching order that is just a little bit corrupted, and it sounds like it's kind of formed like a little bit of a government, and it's a little corrupted, and we're not gonna talk about Bruno on that. Yeah, so it's a little corrupted. It's a little needing to change. I needed to update its values a little bit. So who gets to change it? Well, our main character, kind of, sort of, except, she's supposed to have been manifesting her powers, and she was lineaged. Her lineage rather is very impressive. So she's supposed to be very impressive. However, there was a thing that happened, and this thing caused her to not want to divulge to the non-magical world that she is a magical being. So what does she do? She lives amongst us mortals without powers. And she does use her magic a little bit here and there on the daily, but not to any great extent. So when her powers are tested by this big overarching magical system, well, now her powers are in jeopardy. And now she kind of needs to make sure she can keep them. Right. And then you got to read the rest of the story to figure out, or listen to the rest of the story, rather, there you go, to figure out what exactly happens. So for me, this was a new to me author, and I think this was this author's debut. So there was a lot of firsts going on, And I really loved it. I thought it was amazing, and I am definitely giving it, I'm giving it a 4.5 because I want to see how the second book goes. And this is definitely cozy fantasy, I'd say, because the actual stakes and the consequences, I feel like the stakes themselves are super high for her personally. But and with the other characters, like, as you read along, like, there are things that happen within the story that is just like, whoa, okay, we go there. But like, it's definitely packaged as low stakes, even though it's like high consequence, medium stakes. It's very interesting. I don't really know how to describe this work, but it works. Like, it's a cozy fantasy with a lot of mature topics, and they're handled well. It's not rushed under the rug. It's not too heavy. It's not pointed at any specific thing, and I think that's why it works. I really, again, this is so hard to really pinpoint when it comes to what the story actually is, because the elevator pitch is as promised, but the book really just delivers a couple of kind of sucker punches that come out of nowhere, but they don't hurt. If that makes sense. They just like make you go, whoa, okay. I'm a little dazed, but hey, I'm here for it. I'm here for the adventure. Let's freaking go. And yeah, I don't know how to describe it past that, because that's really kind of what it is. It was a really good book, okay? It was 4.5 star, and that's all I got. I had a good time with it. The translation was amazing. I love the narrator. I'm sorry, not translation. Narration. What the heck? Get it together, Linda. It's fine. Yeah, I love the narrator. I love the characters. They were so just unique and quirky without being too much. Now I need to talk to you guys about some books that I started but did not finish. So I have a soft DNF here with me, and that is Stephen King, Rita Hayworth, and Shawshank Redemption. I actually started this, and I think I'm halfway through. I'm not even close to halfway through. I'm like 12 pages in, and I mean, it's tiny, but I've been distracted, okay? I started it for a video concept idea, and then I just didn't finish it. However, I am going to be picking this back up. I think I really just need to reread it, because the first sentence was, let me just read it. There's a guy like me in every state and federal prison in America, I guess. I'm the guy who can get it for you. And no, that's a spoiler. I can't even say what it is, but come to find out, I can't say it. Come to find out, this book has a lot of twists and turns that I was not expecting within the first 2 pages. Okay, all right, so I need to come back to this one. There's that one, and then another one that I unhauled, that I am hard DNFing. The Wicked King by Holly Black. You guys, what possessed me to buy said book, I will never freaking know. I will never freaking know, and it's fine. Bro, I think it's because I pushed through the first one. And it's like, okay, not to make it sound like it was such a dredge, because it was not such a dredge. It really was not. I was invested in it enough to the point where it would have just been an average read for me. But to be honest, because of this one particular element that just like would not just shut up in my head, like I just could not read it. And I can't tell you like what it does internally to me, but I just cannot get over a certain element. And I think it's because, like I have expressed so many times before, there are conversations that certain ages can have, absolutely. But the fact that it was marketed to the audience that it was marketed towards, I believe ages below that should not know what this is and could read this without any sort of problem. But it's because I'm older and I know what it is that now I'm looking at it and I'm looking at it sideways. All right? Which is just how it be with TV shows and other things. So it's not a knock on the author, okay? It's not a knock on the book. It's not a knock on anything else other than the fact that that thing exists and now I see it and now I'm side-eyeing it. And that's just what it is for me. It's the fact that it is there and that it exists, and that if someone were to take that element and then like that be the seed that gets to the conversation, it's not that it's necessarily a bad thing and that it's always a bad thing. It's not. It makes me feel like I do when I look back at old TV shows or movies or whatever and realize that my favorite, what I thought was pure movies and stuff, oh, they were ratchet. They were really hiding some stuff, okay? And it's supposed to do that, but does it have to? You know? does it have to do that? I don't know. I just, it's just a time and a thing for me. So I had to DNF. That is it. That was the wrap up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, for enduring all my yapping. It was really fun to just sit down and talk with you guys. I hope you guys have a great and amazing day. If you guys want to check me out on any of my other social media sites, all of them will be linked in the description box down below. As I said before, again, we have a book talk, we have a TikTok, we have an Instagram, a Bookstagram, a lifestyle channel, and of course a vocal platform, so you can find me on all of those places. And as always, thank you guys so much for being the absolute best bookish bestie that ever was, is, or ever will be. I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye!